Is this me?
It is you.
There's so much pressure on me here, man. What is this, episode 502?
We'll lose track. I wouldn't do
I
that.
know, it's amazing. Um, yeah, we were talking in the last episode about I versus she, shall we say.
Mhm.
Um, I will confess, Robert, I can't not feel like Ellie. I mean, I can't not, I can't feel like I'm writing about some third person, some other person. It's me. It's my story. So I can't
That's
deny
fine.
that.
That's fine.
So the last question you asked me at the end of the last episode
The
was,
call to adventure you mentioned in the ordinary world, pretty ordinary. Hey, look, it's Ellie just kind of doing things. What happens to you, the creator, with this creation of Ellie when she goes into peril? Because the call to adventure is necessarily uncomfortable, is necessarily something that is going to force her out of the ordinary world. So when you put her in that position, how do you feel?
well, because I know her story and I knew that I was going to be telling the whole story, and there were elements that come in later that are hugely important. I felt a responsibility toward the whole story of putting some things in perspective a little bit earlier. And so I did. And one, it's not exactly foreshadowing, it's just information, but it answers questions. This is in my reflections, which
I'm about to ding you, and I think you know why.
because I'm telling and not
Yeah,
knowing.
yeah, you're telling me, do you remember this slide? The backstory? Everyone's got one. And remember when the backstory is really valid? When you're drinking and you're buying and it's late night in the bar, that everything you were talking about there, we'll see when it shows up in your writing, but I'm going to say, you know what matters? Ellie doing stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I caught myself doing what you're saying. So I don't, maybe in explaining it to you just now, I took you through more of the process than where it
You
ended up
did.
because I
You
remember
did.
seeing, and then I wasn't even in present tense anymore. I'm like, Susan, what are you doing?
Oh,
You know,
you're fulfilling yourself, which again, this is back to again, I quote King so many times, but remember the responsibility of the writer. It's to the reader. It's not to you. Just because it's interesting to you doesn't mean it's interesting to the reader. Ellie doing stuff, Ellie being in peril and dealing with obstacles is interesting. That we care about Ellie, that she's doing something, and hopefully something big, hairy, and audacious is cool. Let's see it happen. Let's see her actively go.
and just for the sake of mentioning it, it's a little tricky to do that in the reflections, which is designed to be like three sentences.
Well,
So it's a
yeah,
little tricky. Um,
that's why, again, it takes several iterations, as I mentioned, right? Because you've seen the Shawshank version and the Inside Out version. I've got a fully formed thing. You're having to fill in what is this thing and then dilute it to the most meaty part. And so that's where getting it up, getting it out over and over, walk with Ellie as many times as possible. And that's where the everything you were saying, I was like, ooh, I hope none of that's in
oh,
your.
that's so funny. That's so funny. I was about to get dinged on a daily dose. I mean, I actually think I did that. I think I was sort of in past tense or reflective, fill in
It
the.
better be quick. I mean, because like you said, this is 2 to 3 lines per stage. So whatever it's this happens and that happens.
Oh,
I don't know how much this landed with you the other day, but I really like this. The science of writing is physics, right? For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And that's what we want to see. Thing happens, react. Reaction, thing happens, right? We want to see that back and forth, that swing and tide and loss and love and boom. That's what we want.
well, I will say a couple of chapters ago when I sent you like 5 pages, which is ridiculous, um, and you kind of went out of your normal role and said, well, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about right here. We're
I'm
going
going
to
to show,
reduce
not
this
tell.
5 pages to a page and a half. And when I first saw what you wrote, periodically I'd go, but does the reader, is that going to hold up? And I just trusted that your experience was more than mine, and sort of gave it another chance or two or three. And finally, I mean, that was such a gift for you to do that, because it you really did show me. It was great how to get to the place where I can trust that this sentence is preceded in the reader's mind by these questions or these assumptions or these whatever. I don't have to spell it all out. However, I have to tell you, you just scared me silly. You just said 2 to 3 lines for the reflections.
Sentences. Don't. Yeah. See, this is your literalism jumping at you.
You
I
scared
get
me though. I'm
stories in my
having
head,
enough
and you
trouble
know.
as it is.
But Robert, you said 1 page. Okay. See, however you get there is how you get there.
Okay.
All right.
I just had to throw that out there.
No, good. We're throwing a lot of things out. We thank you for joining us on the dose. We'll see you next time.